What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. We're gonna jump straight into it. This video is about my eBay journey. Basically, you know, everything I've gone through as a seller, what I started with, what's worked for me, and kind of getting back on track with that. You know, and it goes along with that, the mistakes that I've made as a collector. Early on, I was buying a lot of stuff that I just thought it was the best value that I could get on it, and I was very wrong on that. I think in hindsight, it's easier to look back and say that, you know, I could have, should have done these things differently, but we're gonna talk about that in the video. And then lastly, I am selling, and this is not, you know, this is not a sob story by any means. I definitely plan on finding these cards again, but I am selling my first edition base set master set. Well, not the whole master set. I'm selling the hollows. All of the commons and uncommons I am keeping, but all of these will be going up on eBay. I've got these ones listed right now. Well, we'll go into that. But yeah, this is not, Ryan, why are you selling your first edition base set master set? I am keeping, I might even keep the Raichu. Oh, I forgot about Raichu. Yeah, we'll talk about that though. Raichu, I might end up keeping. That card deserves better than a 7, but here is my first edition master set, complete. It has every single card that is in the first edition English master set. Most of them are 9, some of them are 7, some of them are 8, some of them were just really expensive and really hard to find. The last, for example, very basic trainer card, not something that is a card that people are looking to collect, but there are very few of them graded in first edition in a high grade. So the last, I think, was like, I feel like it was like a PSA 4 or 5 and cost me like over $100. It's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, some of those cards, you know, I just could not get in a high enough grade, but I'm not really worried about my non-hollow part of the master set. I'm more worried about the hollow part of the master set and retaining value and trying to take advantage of the Pokemon market and where it's going. And we're gonna talk about that. So first off, my eBay journey. As a lot of you know, I started selling on eBay about maybe a year and a half ago. I had been selling on Mercari for about 2 years, but I just didn't want to do eBay. And a part of that is just because I was nervous. I had never used eBay before. I didn't realize how easy it was going to be. I still believe that Mercari is easier. I don't know if I haven't figured this out yet. Or where it could be, but with eBay, I have to print everything out on the printer. I have to have ink, I have to have my paper, and like yada yada. Yes, Orion, you have to have these things, envelopes, so you can ship cheap cards, and all that stuff is kind of stressful when you're looking at options, pricing stuff out, hoping that you're not wasting more money to start up your venture. It's all very stressful. I got some cheap envelopes off eBay. That's how I ship out a lot of the cards. I'll usually cut up the label, and then I'll use the other half of the paper to fold the card in between with a top loader in a team bag. This is very basic stuff, but I think everybody should hear it, especially if you're getting into Pokemon now and wanting to sell some of your cards now. This is very important stuff. So you want to have your card protected in some kind of top loader, some kind of protection. Never ship a card out without protection. This is the beautiful Celebrations Mew. This one's about to go up for auction. And I pulled this card myself back when Celebrations was the hot set to have. And this is honestly absolutely a beautiful regular hollow card. It's gorgeous. But anyways, you want to have your card in a top loader. You want to have it protected. And then on top of that, you want to use, and this is a PSA one, which looks really good with the PSA slabs, but you want to use a team bag. You want to have something protecting your card, especially, you know, if it's in a slab to protect the slab, but especially if it's just the card, because as soon as you sell this card, it's not your card anymore. You need to remember that you are dealing with other people's property as soon as it gets sold. And these cards easily, I've gotten them this way all the time, where they fall out of the top loader, they get damaged. And I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I probably wouldn't make a fuss about it if it's a cheaper card. But the more expensive they get, the more frustrating that is. So yeah, you want to have a team bag, and you want to have it wrapped tight so that that card is not coming out of that top loader. Anyways, so for selling cheap cards, you need to know to do certain things. It's very basic, but it should be you should be informed on it if you are going to become a seller, because that feedback is very important. And I knew that starting out. That's something that stressed me out on eBay, is I knew that I was starting my eBay store. I wanted to use the same eBay store for a long time. That would mean building really good feedback, which I have really good feedback. I have 5 stars on eBay. I have 5 stars on Mercari. It's not hard to get 5 stars. Just don't screw people over. Don't try to accurately list stuff, and ship stuff with the utmost care. Along with those things that I do for the card, I also write on every single envelope, please be fragile with this card, or I'll put fragile on there, or I'll slap a fragile sticker on there, or I'll ask USPS to slap a fragile sticker on there. That's part of their job. You know, that's what they do. They package stuff up. Occasionally I'll ask them to put a fragile sticker on something, just so that people know that I care about your property that's coming to you. Anyways, I knew the first part would be getting that feedback, and I think that's the hardest part, honestly. Once you get 50 to 100 sales, I think it becomes, you start to just do it in revolutions, and it becomes very normal. You might hear Aspen in the background. It's almost lunchtime over here, so I've got to finish up shortly. But anyways, moving forward, my eBay journey has been a pretty good one. It's been a pretty smooth one. I've sold really cheap cards, I've sold middle level cards, and I've sold a couple high-end cards, and that was very stressful. But I've realized that you can do anything, and eBay is probably going to have your back. And especially if you have a card that's over $200, their authentication process has changed everything about eBay. Without the authentication process, there would be a lot more headache, arguably, for sellers and buyers, being stressed out whether your item is authentic and genuine and legit. That's a stressful thing. So they started the authentication process. That's, $250 or more, the card gets authenticated, which is awesome, because with that amount of money, it should be authenticated. You should know what you're getting your hands on. And they do that, I think, strictly in the US. They do not authenticate cards that are international. I hope that they change that. It has kept me from buying a lot of good deals internationally, because I want everything to be authenticated. I am skeptical of everything, and you should be too. There's a lot of scammers, there's a lot of liars, there's a lot of people that do bad stuff in this hobby, and there's equally a lot of genuine good sellers, good people, and a great community here. So I think, if it just takes a couple bad experiences for you to just not want to have anything to do with Pokemon. And I've had those bad experiences from the buyer perspective. We're not going to talk about that much, but I've been scammed on fake cards, resealed products, fake decks. I've pretty much seen it all in my first year of heavily collecting and buying. But now we have just passed 300 sales. That wasn't that hard to do. It does help if you've been collecting for a while on eBay, because it builds up that feedback you get from other sellers. One of my favorite things about eBay is it's kind of like a game to me. eBay is I like leveling up, It's like in Pokemon, when you're leveling up your Pokemon to get them to 100. On eBay, I'm leveling up my eBay because I want it to get to 10,000 someday. And there are so many sellers that are doing that are really one-man teams that have 10,000 plus sales, and that's incredible. I think it's much easier said than done. Obviously, you have to have a lot of product, you have to have a lot of inventory, but there are so many ways you can go about building up that feedback, making sales. And one thing that I've personally learned that I think catapulted my eBay into being a more successful little store was the fact that I was selling a lot of cheap cards. And I've continued to, because it works. It honestly works. People love supporting me in that respect. They like buying, a dollar thing. And I don't even care about what the money is. I think I shipped out 9 or 10 or 11 cards today, and it was a $30 total or something like that. And I spent time, gas, I packaged all that stuff up. That took maybe an hour. It does take time when you do care about the process that you're going through to ship these cards out, right? And sometimes it sucks because you're this is not worth anything. Is my time worth it? But at the end of the day, you've got to start somewhere. And I think selling cheaper cards is a great way to do that. I think a lot of people want the easier route, and so do I. I want to sell higher end cards and have a larger margin and have stuff that's collectible that people really want to have in their collections. But one thing I've learned is that there's such a great diversity in everybody there's such a great diversity in somebody was just texting me, but there's such a great diversity in all the different kinds of collectors that there's a niche for everybody. And I've talked about that too on this channel, niches and how important they are, and knowing what your niche is and trying to push that. For me, I think it's going to end up being highly sought after English cards like gold stars and crystals and shinings. Those are, and Charizards. That's like my, and theme decks. That's like my niche. That's what works for me. And then selling random cards on the side. People love to auction on that stuff. They love to put, a penny down on an auction, and you set your shipping to cover your shipping costs, and maybe even you set it at $1. So that way, every card you're getting at least $1 on every card. And it's not a total wash, because there's a lot of times you'll put stuff up with free shipping and 1 penny, and somebody bids a penny and they get your card for a penny. And you don't want to be in that situation where you are shipping out 11 cards for 11 cents. That's not something you want to get into. I shipped a lot of cards that way starting out. I didn't care. I wanted to get sales, and sometimes you might have to take a small loss to get a bunch of those sales early on. It's not a must. It's not like everybody has to do that, but I am saying what worked for me. And ultimately, a lot of my cards were, cheaper, more beat up cards, more played cards. They were all raw. None of them were graded. That's the stuff that I was collecting early on. I honestly did not understand the point of buying graded cards. Now I understand it from a perspective of knowing market values and how to gauge what your collection is worth. Having a few high-end slabs can be very helpful. But when it comes to having a ton of inventory, I think raw is the way to go. On my eBay journey, I've had way more ease selling stuff that's raw than selling stuff that's graded. I've had such a tough time selling cards that are graded. Even if I drop them below market, it doesn't even matter. Some cards you just have to leave up for 3 months, 4 months, and then they finally sell and you're like, finally, that's sold. And sometimes it has to do with the market, and sometimes someone just doesn't want to wait and they want to buy that card. But I had a lot of feedback from buying on eBay too. And a lot of people would say, steer clear of eBay, don't buy on eBay, it's fee-bay, it's too expensive. But there is something to take note of here, right? The buyers that are buying and selling on eBay, and just like buying collections, what have you, they're racking up their feedback, which kind of counts towards that leveling up, theory that I'm talking about, where like it feels like on eBay that you are leveling up your store, your business, just racking up that feedback. So sometimes it's just easier and better to just buy on eBay. You get the feedback, you might make a connection. Maybe a card you buy off somebody, they have a whole bunch of other cards in their collection and you ask about it. Or maybe you buy off them and you do the initial deal and then you work off of eBay. I'm not saying you have to use eBay, but I just think overall eBay is not so bad. Right now, with the prices in Pokemon cards and the market in general, it's a really good time to be buying cards. It's a really good time to be buying modern alt arts. It's a really good time to be buying vintage. It's a really good time to be buying first edition vintage, which is also why that's something that I'm now interested in, because we were in a bubble. It was inflated. The market, everything was way too expensive. That's why a lot of the cards that I bought were stuff like this. They were 5s and 6s. And this Gyarados is still gorgeous. And that, I think that it's really subjective. Grading is really subjective. Talked about this on the channel. People talk about it all the time. Buy the card, not the grade, right? Buy the card, not the grade. When I was looking at these cards online, they looked pretty clean for the price, considering that a mint version like an 8 or a 9 was like 3-4 times as expensive. I knew that I couldn't afford to do that. Bear with me, the dogs are barking. That happens on the channel all the time. But I knew that I could not afford to just buy higher end grades on these cards. But now is a good time to sell, and it's a good market to be buying these in. Now that I've built up my store, this is the perfect time. I am not getting rid of my first edition collection. I am trying to revise it and upgrade it to being a 7, 8, 9 collection instead of a 5, 6, 7 collection of graded cards. And it's really important to me. They're all PSA, so I want to keep everything PSA graded in that briefcase. That is one of my best collection goals, is having a first edition base set. It's just fun. I've always wanted to have it. It's badass in the briefcase. I love it. And I love showing it to people. I think it's always eye-popping when you have a completed first edition base set. And when I went to this vending event recently, that was one of the only things they were interested in. People still love vintage. They still want vintage, but I know I could get a lot more online for them. So I'm just going to wait and do it that way. And that brings us to another thing, ending this eBay journey topic, because I know it's been a stretched out one. The vault, the eBay vault, super important. I am still not ready to let some of these cards go to the vault. I still like looking at them on a daily basis. But if you submit your cards to the vault and you're buying them and sending them to the vault, which you have to enroll in the vault, it's free, it doesn't cost anything. This is going to revolutionize eBay, the way Pokemon card selling works. This is going to change everything. It should change everything. Now, January 2024, or starting in 2024, we are going to get, I don't know if it's early January or late January, we are going to get a 3% buyer premium fee on eBay Vault products. But overall, if you're buying a $10,000 card, let's say, your taxes on that $10,000 card would be like $700-800 if you send it to the vault because you're enrolled in the vault, and then you have it in there for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and then you withdraw it for $50. That's the highest fee they charge. They have tier listing. They have tiers for this depending on the value of the card. I think cards below $1,000 are like $30 to pull from the vault, so you're still saving $20 or $30 on taxes. If you don't have taxes, maybe disregard the vault. It really doesn't matter for you if you don't have sales tax in your state. But if you, and man, I am jealous of the people that don't have sales tax in their state. They can literally, it's like an unlimited money glitch for Pokemon. Like if you don't have sales tax in your state and you can get a good deal on cards, like you can make plays everywhere. But another big one, even if you don't have sales tax, is the eBay Vault doesn't have seller fees. This is huge, guys. Without seller fees, you're not taking a 13% hit on your cards when you sell them. It's one of the biggest things that I've realized that, is worth sending your cards to the vault. I've priced my cards a little bit higher, selling them online just to account for the fee because I just don't want to send them off yet. But honestly, if you're not sentimentally attached, which I've also, a part of my eBay journey has learned to just not be attached to cards. Not be emotionally attached because people are way too emotionally attached to their cards. I'm still too emotionally attached to a lot of these. That's why I don't send them to the vault, because I still want to look at this stuff. That was one of the best things about getting into Pokemon, investing in Pokemon, collecting in Pokemon, was getting to look at my cards every day and get to actually enjoy them rather than having them be somewhere and just be in the, the atmosphere of eBay's vault. I don't want it to be like just another stonk, because we talk a lot about that. I've talked about how, investing in Pokemon cards can be very similar. There are some parallels to investing in the stock market and knowing what's going to happen, what plays to make, when's the right time to sell, when's the right time to buy. Yeah, I just, it can be hard. It can be hard letting go of this stuff and sending it to the vault. I forgot what my next point was, but I think we're pretty much good there. The vault has been a big new thing that's come to the market, and I think it's fantastic. I think people need to really take advantage of it. I really want to take advantage of it. That's why I am listing some stuff for sale because, one, I've got other life responsibilities that I have to afford and be able to pay for, but two, I want to be ready for when a deal does come on the market. And if I have all my stuff, most of it listed, it makes it easier to move that money around and roll it into something else that I really want. But with the first edition cards, I'm just hoping to upgrade them. Okay, so mistakes that I made collecting, the next topic here, and I'm trying to make this one short, but it goes into this first edition collection. It goes into everything that I was collecting early on. I think you have to fail in life to succeed. Ultimately, I made mistakes collecting so I could learn how to be a better collector. I've evolved as a collector. This is a very common occurrence with everybody that's collecting in this hobby. You probably start out, you're buying junk slabs, cheap raw cards, played stuff, very played stuff, damaged stuff, or that's your shtick and you like damaged stuff and then you get it graded and it hits one and you sell those for a premium. Maybe that's your niche. I know that happens with people, but for the mass majority of people want very nice, clean cards, but we start going with whatever is cheaper, not necessarily what is the best value. And I'll never know if it was the right choice or not. I was just buying collections locally because they were cheap, and it did work out very nicely in the end. I sold a lot of that stuff at Collecticon for one of my grails, which I've since sold so I can put towards a new, higher end version of that same card, the Crystal Charizard. I know I've talked about that card a million times, but I really, really want that card. That is not trying to be anything. That is just, that card ever since I owned it was one of the only cards I've wanted since. And I think when you feel that way about a certain card, you owe it to yourself to get that card in your collection, even if it means selling other stuff, other grails that you really like. But anyways, I traded a lot of the stuff I collected early on that I felt like I made mistakes on. I traded that up for a nicer card that was much easier to sell and get all that equity back and roll it into a nicer card. But equally, had I kept those cards, and I've talked about this, I could have sold a ton of those cards, probably had a better margin, probably had a better profit. It would have taken way more time, but I would have been racking up that feedback as an eBay seller. Sometimes you have to take the long, hard route to build up that feedback and build up a reputation as a seller. I think that it's better that people start with cheaper stuff than try and move into higher end cards that they might be sitting on for a while, because turnover is very important. And if you're selling cards every single day just because they're cheap and anybody will bid on them, then you're building up that reputation. So that's one thing where it's like, I know that I made mistakes collecting by buying cheap beat up cards and buying them in collections and getting a really cheap cost basis on it, or going to my local shop and giving a low offer and being like, I'll take these off y'all's hands for a cheap deal, and then selling those on eBay. Even if I broke even on a lot of those, it built up that feedback. It allowed me to have something that I was doing, to have a goal. I am trying to refine how I'm doing eBay now, but I'm finding that I'm still going back to like selling a bunch of cheaper, easier to acquire cards. It appeals to the masses. It appeals to everybody. Everybody can bid on $1 to $5 card. Not everybody can bid on or do an offer on a card that's thousands or hundreds. So it's a harder market. And if you are going to go in that market, you have to have cards that are very near mint, because people, when they get up to that point of collecting, are very picky. And that's something that I've noticed, is that it's going to be very hard for you to sell cards that are higher end to picky collectors that aren't at least 8, 9, 10. And 10s, that's, we've talked about that. That can be kind of risky, but it's worth, if you're really, really OCD, you want a pretty much almost perfect card, 10 can definitely be the way to go. There's so many 9s that I have that I'm like, this is really nice, it's mint, but this little nick right here, this little indentation right here, like, it just bothers me. It's just, it would be nice to get like a vintage grail 10 at some point. But anyways, that won't be in the near future probably. But one thing that's worked for me as far as, in terms of, so back to mistakes I've made, but I do want to say on eBay, one thing that does work is if you are collecting modern and you're just ripping a lot of product because that's what you want to do, you don't care about the value you're getting back, but you do want to sell, you do want to get some of your value back, or you're just bored, you want to start an eBay, collecting modern honestly can work out very nicely, right? Because you don't know what you're going to get. It's not like you're buying a card in the shop and then trying to upcharge a little bit online. This is like you're opening packs and you get 2 duplicates. Like for me, I got a Rika twice from Paradox Rift. The first one I pulled in like 3 packs. I just sold it for almost $15, so I almost got all the money I got from opening packs. So selling on eBay with modern stuff that you're opening and pulling, especially if you get duplicates, can be a really good way to offset your spending costs. Anyways, enough of eBay and my journey with eBay. I probably missed a couple points. If you guys have any questions, just ask. Aspen is freaking out about something. But back to mistakes that I made of collecting. I want you guys to I want to show you guys each of these, because we are going to talk about selling my first edition collection in a minute here. But look at these grades. We got a 5, we got a 4, we got a 6, and these are beautiful, and we're going to talk about these in a bit. But we got another 6, we got another 6. I was really having a tough time, going above that 6. We got a 5. We got another 6. This Nidoking is freaking gorgeous. I don't even know how this card got 6. We'll talk about that. And then these ones I have not, Raichu, which I'm gonna have a hard time selling Raichu. Some of these 7s, like, it's very subjective, right? Some of these 7s are super clean, but yeah, here's a 7. It's my Raichu. These I have not listed yet. I was about to put a team bag, a new fresh team bag on this guy. But we got our Poliwhirl here. That was a 6. We got a 5 Clefairy. And these I really didn't care about, because They were less sought after for me personally, so I didn't feel like going any higher on grades. We got a Shadowless first edition Machamp, which I actually just discovered. I had a theme deck that I thought I put it in the unlimited theme decks up in my display, and I opened it. It was Shadowless first edition, so it's pretty funny because I think I paid like $180 for this 5 when I literally had one I could have gotten graded sitting in one of my deck boxes. But anyways, and that's pretty cool to have a first edition Machamp just pop up in my collection and not even realize that it was there. Because all of the Machamps have that first edition stamp, so I think it just slipped by me when I bought it on eBay because it wasn't listed as Shadowless. I think I just thought it was just another deck in my collection. We got a Chansey here in 5. Chansey's a tough one. I think that's actually more an expensive one. And we got a 7 Magneton. The 7s are honestly, that might be a good place to stay for a while. But I just feel like this goes into the mistakes that I made, right? I was going for a lot of mid-level stuff. And looking over these cards, I'm not like unhappy with them. Like, it's weird. Like, part of me feels like, dude, you have your first edition collection. It doesn't have to be something else. Like, but I already traded off my first edition Blastoise and my first edition Venusaur so I could get my hands on this beautiful Gold Star Rayquaza here. I'm not even gonna get that out, but I will say that my my first edition Charizard is not going up for eBay quite yet. It's a thick stamp. It looks really nice, but it's not going up for eBay quite yet. Aspen is very upset right now. Aspen's, I think, probably going down for a nap, so she's very upset right now. So I'm sorry for that, guys. You know how it is. If you're a parent, stuff happens. We literally had to cancel my live from last week because she woke up in the middle of the night screaming. So that stuff does happen. I'm going to try to wrap it up quick. So I went after a lot of mid-grade stuff, and I honestly want to say that I'm pretty happy with my first edition Master Set as it is. But after letting go of the Blastoise and the Venusaur and seeing the market come down for cards like that in a PSA 9, I've kind of decided, like, I'm going to take this very slowly, and basically I'm going to put up all my first editions on eBay except for Charizard. I really, really like that Charizard, even though it's a 5. I really like it. And if I see a really good deal for a Charizard card that's PSA that's maybe like a 7 or 8 and it's in auction or something, I might put a bid in on that. I'm just not quite ready yet. I'm happy with the 5 that I have. It doesn't have any really bad issues, just a little edge wear and corner wear. But for some reason, I'm like gearing up to go after PSA 9 cards. So, but in terms of the mistakes that I made, I wish that I would have done a little more research and done a little bit more due diligence, and I wish I would have gone after higher grade cards from the beginning. Now, I think that could have been a mistake because I would have bought in a very inflated market. And one thing that is nice about these mid-grade cards is that the market's kind of weird on them. Some of them go for dirt cheap. Some of them actually end up fetching premiums. Like, some of them, it really depends, right? What the card is, how good the pictures are, but you're buying the card, not the grade. So there are, it's kind of the wild, wild west for like these middle grade cards from what I've seen. So that is kind of an interesting thing because you can still, like with these, if I sell these, I'll probably break even, but that's better than just losing a big chunk of money. If you bought a PSA 9 Charizard during the, or Blastoise or Venusaur during the hype, during the big bubble, during the big boom, you would have lost your butt on that card. There are, I feel like PSA 9s going for $13,000 to $14,000, which is a lot of money. That's a car, right? I mean, even half of that is a car, but that's a lot cheaper comparatively than what it used to be, right? Because during the hype of the boom and bubble, I think they were $30,000, and there are still people trying to sell their PSA 9 Charizards for $30,000. If I had a PSA 9 and I did put it up for sale, I wouldn't take anything less than $30,000. Honestly, I just wouldn't. That's such a cool pinnacle card for me to own personally. It would be very hard for me to sell it. But again, mistakes that I made early on, it goes back to being attached to cards and being sentimental, and eBay helped a lot with that. Letting go of stuff isn't the end of the world. It doesn't define you. I think a lot of it is just the chase. A lot of collectors, I think, actually like to have owned cards rather than still own those cards. And there are people that are just diehard collectors that hold on to stuff forever. And I commend you for that. I applaud you for that, because that is, I think, the dream, to just sit on stuff and not worry about trying to move money around. But in my life and in many others, you have to move money around. You have other responsibilities. Things come up. I can't always have the nice collection that I want. Sometimes I might have to move stuff around. But when going to sell stuff, because the mid grades and lower grade cards and, raw cards, because it's kind of the wild, wild west, it's kind of hard to know what value you're going to get back on those cards. Especially right now with the market being kind of down, it's kind of hard to know what value you're going to get back on those cards. Whereas the cards that are higher grade are still, and very rare, sought after, are still holding up quite nicely. Even though first editions have come down tremendously, they're still holding up pretty nicely. Blastoise is still holding up around $3,000. Venusaur is still holding up around, I think, 2,400, I think, in a 9, which is kind of crazy to me. Why Venusaur and Blastoise are so much more undervalued than Charizard. It really makes no sense. They're just as collectible. They're just as cool. I think Venusaur does not get enough love. I know Blastoise is pretty popular, but Blastoise especially, being as popular as Blastoise is, which is just a badass Pokemon, I think Blastoise is an incredible value right now to get in terms of the first edition base set. I think Blastoise is one of the best values you can get. Venusaur is good value too, trending several $100s less than Blastoise, but man, Blastoise first edition, if you can grab that for $3,000, a little more than $3,000, that's a sick card to have in your collection. And gradually, I would like to get those two and then maybe move towards the Charizard, because my Venusaur and Blastoise that I traded for that Gold Star Rayquaza, they both had clipped corners, and when I say clipped, I mean bent corners, and they were still given 6s and 7s. This was during the boom. This is during when everyone was submitting their cards and PSA was just giving out grades. Honestly, I don't know how they got a 6 and a 7 if they had bent corners, but they did. Anyways, I wanted to get rid of those because I wanted a shot at collecting nicer version ones. But honestly, if I didn't sell those if I didn't trade those at Collecticon, I probably wouldn't be here now. So everything happens for a reason. I'm glad that I'm here now. And you know what? We're going to try and do it differently this time. We're going to try and go for those higher grades. One of my goals would be definitely to have a PSA 9 complete master set, base set first edition collection. That would be super cool to me. And I think right now is a good time for first editions. Trying to think of other mistakes I made. Buying stuff that others like, right? That's a huge mistake that I made early on, was buying stuff that other people really liked, and then ending up selling it and taking slight losses on stuff that I really didn't want. It was really stuff that other people were talking about, and I was like, oh, this is cool, I'm gonna buy this too. But you really have to trust your gut and go with stuff that you like, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's everyone says buy what you like, buy what you love. It's as simple as that. It really is as simple as that. You're not gonna have the same interest collecting as everybody else. You're gonna like what you like, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you if you like WotC and vintage like I do. It doesn't mean you're a Pokemon boomer collector if you're not as crazy about alt arts as you are about vintage stuff. Vintage for me is king. It's golden, and that's what I like to collect. Whether that ends up being Japanese vintage or English vintage. For now, it's English, but and I think I really love Japanese, but a lot of people are collecting Japanese right now, and it's one of those things where it's that would be a mistake for me, because I know what I like. I know that I like collecting the English cards. I know that they're worse conditions usually, and the quality of the cards are usually worse. And there are some cards just exclusively to Japan that you just can't get in English. But I know my niche, vintage English. It's boring, but it's safe for me. It's a place where I feel comfortable collecting, putting my money into. So that's very important, that you trust your gut on stuff that you like to collect. Definitely huge mistake would be just going with the flow of what people are collecting at the time. Hype products, hype cards, hype promos. This Van Gogh Pikachu is a perfect example of a hype promo that everybody wants and is going after, but doesn't really, I feel like, matter that much. Honestly, I'm shocked at what they're going for right now. But yeah, we got a lot of content on that Van Gogh Pikachu. Man, we got a lot of content on that card. That card, honestly, should have been printed to the ground as a promo so that everybody could have it. But anyways, that's another story. Selling my first edition set. So this is not going to be easy for me, but at the same time, I think it's just part of moving forward and trying to level up as a collector. And so basically this last part of the video, I know it's been running long, but if you guys are still with me, this last part of the video is just to appreciate these cards because they might be gone at some point. We'll start off with Big Boy over here. Hopefully Van Gogh Pikachu doesn't end up falling off the shelf. We'll start off with Charizard. We'll take him out the protection case. God, this thing is such a beautiful 5. I don't know how I lucked out with this card. I think I should actually resub it and see if I could get a 6 or a 7. I think I'm more likely to crack this card and resub it. Or even send it to BGS. I think I'm more likely to do that than to just go ahead and buy another because it is a thick stamp. So first edition cards, there's 2 variations. There's a thick stamp and a thin stamp. And it kind of seems backwards because there's a much thicker ink on the thick stamp, but this is the thin stamp. I hope the camera quality is good in picking that up nicely, but you can see it's got a very thin 1. This does not mean it's fake. It's just a variation in the stamp. And then we've got thick stamps here. You can see that stamp is a bit bigger. That's what people want. That is the variation of first edition stamp that people want. As you guys can see, the centering is pretty good on this Charizard. It's in pretty good condition. It's a pretty flat, straight card. Doesn't have like any scratches on the holo. I don't know really how it got a 5. This cert is a 6.9 cert. During this time, there was a lot of cards being submitted to PSA. So I think that has something to do with it. On the back of it, you guys can see there is a little bit of whitening on this edge. That's probably what got it the 5. This bottom, this side, and the top are all pretty good. As you guys can see, hopefully the camera's catching everything. But yeah, the sides are pretty good, but this side got nicked pretty bad. I also traded off a first edition Charizard that I had a duplicate of that was a thin stamp. I traded that and my Venusaur and Blastoise as a trio for the Rayquaza Gold Star. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it one bit, but I did have this one, and this was the nicer one, in my opinion. Shout out to Grogu Cards. Some of y'all may know who that is. They started on eBay not too long ago, but they've been in the travel convention community for a little bit now. But yeah, shout out to Grogu Cards with working me that deal so I could get the Rayquaza Gold Star. But yeah, we're gonna just appreciate these one last time before they're gone for good, because they very well could sell very quickly. There's already been a lot of people asking about these. I just put them up 2 days ago, and I've already had offers on a couple of them. So we've got Raichu here, which is a thick stamp as well. This is a 7, and honestly, it's a really strong 7. Hi, baby. How we doing? You want to say hi? You can come in here and say hi. We're wrapping things up. The holo quality is really, really good on here. There's not a lot of scratches on here. It looks super, super clean, really well centered, and I just love Raichu. The back, as you can see, is really, really clean. I feel like it probably could have gotten an 8, but again, I was buying the card, not the grade necessarily. Hello.
Okay, if you can't.
Come here. It's a family channel. Everybody knows that. Say hi. Say I'm a movie star. Say I'm a movie star. So I'm showing everybody my cards before I sell them. It's a bittersweet moment, but we're gonna move on to greener pastures. All right. So what do you think of Nidoking? That's a pretty card, right? Oh boy. Okay.
Dragon.
Okay.
Dragon.
It's a dragon. So here's Nidoking. Nidoking's centering is pretty good. The holo is pretty nice. I don't know how this card got a 6, honestly. It's super, super clean. Are you getting down? What are we doing? Okay, we're gonna eat the card. She's gonna take a chunk. out of my card and eat it. You're gonna eat that? Okay, we're not doing that. I'm gonna show you guys the back of the card. You guys are gonna see the camera quality is pretty good. How are these cards getting these grades? You see what I mean? Like, this card is flawless and got a 6. Literally can't find a scratch on it. Look at that. So grading can be very subjective. Yes, Dada. That's right. Oh, I still need to sell that magneton. I need to put that in that other pile. Okay, so this Alakazam is an... I love you. Oh, he's so cute. Okay. This card is a PSA 5. Again, it's a thick stamp. I was really trying to go after the thick stamps over the thin stamps. Looks super clean, showing you guys the front. There's no nicks, there's no bends, there's nothing. All these cards I really nitpicked and sent messages about because these were really important to me, being the first editions.
Who's that?
Okay. Okay.
Huh? Who's this?
Pikachu.
She likes Pikachu. She's a big fan of Pikachu. She also likes Pichu, which is adorable because Pichu is the baby version of Pikachu. But yeah, I'll show you guys the back here. Look at this 5. Like, what? Look at this 5. I mean, it's not bad at all. Again, same thing with the Charizard. We had one side here that had some edge wear, but overall, super, super clean card. One more look at Alakazam before we move on. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right, we got Ninetales. A lot of these 6s were super strong. I should probably take them out of their plastic cases, but I don't want to keep you guys for too long. This one was a thin stamp, but it was a pretty good price on this one. The centering is not the best. You've got a thick border down here, so I get that. Let's see the back. Again, the back is phenomenal. The back is phenomenal. Look at this. Again, the centering was off, but like really a 6. I mean, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like, I got a deal on these cards, and so that's why a part of me is like, dude, do not sell these mid-level grades. Like, these cards are nice. They got the grade they got. Like, who cares what the grade they got? So, I don't know. It really depends, like, how quickly people jump on these. If they jump on them quick after I put them up, I probably will just move forward with just upgrading and going for higher grades. But, like, what's the point of going for a higher grade if you're happy with the grades that you have? And it's less about the money and more so just, like, I wanted a complete first edition collection that wasn't battered and beaten. And these cards are by no means battered and beaten. Here we do have a thick stamp Zapdos. This guy is gorgy. Look at that. Beautiful. No hollow scratches at all on this card. Really, really pretty. There's the thick stamp right there. Pretty well centered. I mean, from what I can tell from the back, it looks really well centered. Front, it's pretty well centered. It's kind of thick on this side. You guys can take a look at the back. For a 6, like, for some of these being 6s, like, these are really strong 6s. I gotta say, like, they might be super hard on first edition base, just because I think probably a lot of people are submitting first edition base from their childhoods. Here we got a Hitmonchan. This Hitmonchan, I honestly don't know how this got a 6, to be honest with you. I think this one probably could have been a 7, but it's got some light hollow scratches. I love Hitmonchan though. We got a thick stamp right here. The centering's pretty good. The hollow is very glossy. You can see the back. I guess this corner is what got it to 6. I would guess, because the edges in the other corners, this top edge up here, you've got some whitening up here. Yeah, that's what maybe got it to 6. But again, another good example. Beautiful card. This Mewtwo is a great example. This Mewtwo is such a clean 4. This thing is a 4. But take a look at this guy. This was the first card that I was messaged about. I had this up for maybe 10 minutes and somebody messaged me about it. I don't know if that would happen with higher grades that are in higher price tags. I think people really do like to collect mid-grade stuff because it's just way more affordable and they can have a piece of history for a fraction of what the cost would be. This one is a thick stamp. The centering is pretty good. The hollow's pretty glossy on it. We'll check the back. There is some edge wear on this one. The corners all have a little bit of whitening. The top edge wear is pretty apparent, but overall, it's still a beautiful card. It's a clean card. I really like this Mewtwo, even in a 4. This Gyarados, again, buy the card, not the grade. This thing got a 5. I don't know why. It's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And like whether people buy these or not at the prices that I have them at, I don't care. Like I would send them to the vault if I really didn't care, because I would have no seller fees. It'd be easier to sell them in general, but I just don't quite want to let these out of my collection yet. I really want to get the Venusaur and Blastoise, and if these sell, that's fine. I'll replace them. If they don't, no biggie. I've got them in my collection. He's got a little orb right in his mouth, like he's about to do a hyper beam right there. It's a tiny orb, but it's still cool. The placement of it's awesome. But yeah, Gyarados is probably one of my favorite ones in base set. Absolutely fantastic. Gyarados and Mewtwo are so cool. But yeah, look at the back of this card. It's just crazy. Some of these are crazy. Okay, and we're taking probably too long here, so I'm gonna try and speed it up with these ones. Not that they don't deserve more love, but this Magneton is a 7. Super clean hollow. It's like no scratches on it whatsoever. Really clean back. So that one I haven't listed. These ones I have not listed yet. Chansey, scratched up front. It's a thin stamp. The centering is kind of wonky. It's a thick bottom centering. Some people think that's cool. Gives it the unique characteristic. The back's good. Back's good. It's really hollow scratches, mainly. Machamp, again, kind of ridiculous I bought this. I literally had this card here, and I didn't even know that I had it here, which is kind of funny. But yeah, we've got Machamp here. He's beautiful. He's got some slight, trying to show some surface scratches. He's got some light surface scratches. But overall, beautiful card. The corners at the bottom are pretty, those got nicked. Those are pretty gnarly. But that's about it. The other edges are good. Clefairy, this is a thick stamp. I just love the thick stamps. Like, honestly, it's like swirls. Thick stamps, swirls, cool. Centering's not too bad. It's got some light surface scratches on the hollow, and then the back. Like, I could literally just have cracked all of these and put them in a cool base set first edition binder, but I do think there is some value in having them graded, and I can always argue when selling them, this is what it was graded, this is what I think it would probably grade as. I can't have that argument with all of them, but some of them are very clean. So yeah, this one's super clean. And this is the last guy, PSA 5 Polyrath. I'm about to put him in a new nice clean sleeve. The back of this card. So yep, that's all of first edition. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know some people are probably gonna ask, like, why are your first editions on eBay, Orion? I know you love your first edition cards, but at the end of the day, I can move all those around as long as I've got my Charizard. I'm happy. I know what I like. Charizard is one of the main Pokemon that I like to collect, but I will probably be collecting more Rayquaza. I honestly wouldn't mind having another Rayquaza Gold Star. That's a really cool card. Collecting Gold Stars in general, I'm starting to really figure out what I like personally. But anyways, I've taken up way too much time. Peace out, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed seeing the first edition cards one last time before we see them off. Or we don't see them off. It's fine. If they sell, great. If they don't, I don't care. Anyways, peace out, guys. Have a fantastic day.